Hi everyone, my name is Steph, this is the Novelty Corner and welcome back to my channel. Today I have a Books Beside My Bed video for you where I wrap up the last 7 days worth of reading. It is release week for books over here in Australia, so I do have some review titles that I'm going to start off with that were sent to me by Alan and Unwin. They all fit into the kids middle fiction category, and then I'll dive into some of the other titles that I have been reading in the last 7 days. So the first set of books that I'm going to talk about come out on October the 1st, which is tomorrow Australian time. There are two picture books that I received for review. The first one is Ethel the Penguin by Ursula Dubosarsky, which is kind of fitting because we currently have a baby penguin, or a baby emperor penguin, that is going viral because Pesto is rather large. He's a rather large baby and he's absolutely adorable. I saw him last month when I went to the aquarium. I'll pop a picture of him on the screen. Anyway, he's huge, and it's fitting that I'm talking about a penguin book. So this is Ethel the Penguin. She is the friend of our narrator, and Ethel just is a bit of a daredevil, likes to get into things, likes to take a risk, and it causes her parents no end of grief that Ethel finds herself in all sorts of situations, including stuck on the top of a Ferris wheel. And it's the story of sort of how Ethel gets herself out of this mess and the beautiful friendship that exists between Ethel and her classmate, but also the way that, you know, some kids just get into everything and they tend to be the life of the party, and everyone is always trying to convince them to, you know, keep themselves firmly planted on the ground. But, you know, Ethel is this very vivacious sort of character who embraces life and embraces adventure. It has rhyming text, it is very bright and bold in its color palette, and it's just really lovely. Then there is How to Draw a Dragon by Kate Talbot. This book is really fun. It's one of those books where you have multiple narrators talking to each other across the pages. And in this case, it's two people who are talking about the drawing of a dragon. So the main narrator is drawing the dragon and then is interrupted by someone going, well, actually, that doesn't look like a dragon. You've forgotten all of these things. And as the story progresses, features get added to the dragon. And it's really fun. It's really funny. If you've read books like Not a Box and This Is Not My Book, it's that kind of same narrative style. It's really fun. The illustrations in this one are really lovely. It's perfect for anyone who loves dragons or fantasy, or even someone who loves drawing. But it's really a story about embracing your imagination and letting it see where it takes you. Absolutely love this one. Gorgeous little book. Then there is Anh Doh's newest series, which is Kung Fu Roo, and this one is book 1. It is Enter the Roo. This is a full color graphic novel and it was really fun. So in this one you have Kai, Harry and Charlie, who are friends. They learn martial arts together and they're on their way to, I think it's either a lesson or a competition, and they're on the train, but then something happens to their train. And in all of Anh Doh's series, usually there's some kind of weird meteor that hits that gives all of the main characters some special abilities. So if you're familiar at all with Anh Doh's series, you will know that, you know, this is a common feature. Just before this meteor hits, our main character's train is hijacked by robbers, and these guys become the antagonists, at least in the first book. When everything is all said and done and they wake up back at home, they suddenly discover that they have abilities, and these abilities correlate to different animals. So it's really fun. It's very funny and enjoyable, and it's definitely one that I think kids will really enjoy. And just like Anh Doh's serial novels, this is going to obviously be a serial graphic novel, so there's plenty in here to keep people wanting more. And then the last book, or really, well, series that I want to review from a publisher is Emily Rodda's Landovel, which is an epic 3-part fantasy quest. It actually comes in a beautiful slipcase. It's really lovely. So these books are all being sold at the same time together so that you're not waiting for, you know, the next part of the story. So there are 3 books. Book 1 is The Poison Taster, The Secret Keeper, and The Truth Teller. I'll talk mostly about the first book because obviously you don't want spoilers for the whole series, but in The Poison Taster we meet Derry, who is a poison taster. He was kidnapped at a young age by a slave trader and forced to become the poison taster. And at the very start of this book, all of these slaves are living on an island and they're rescued. They don't know much about the outside world, and Derry also possesses the ability to read, which is also something that's quite rare. So he spends quite a bit of time reading some of the old stories of this world to the man who is holding him captive. However, a mysterious traveler turns up on the island, followed by the Elle, who are kind of like the mythological first people of Landovel. From there, everything starts to get a little bit tricky. Derry is rescued alongside many of the other children, and they are tasked with finding someone in one of the different lands. So the stories very helpfully come with a map because this makes so much more sense. You have True Landovel and Free Landovel, and these used to be one land, but they were separated. I think it was by a meteor hit. Anyway, they were separated and they function by different rules. Free Landovel tends to embrace technology and innovation and things like that. Doesn't mean it's perfect, but it does. And True Landovel is sticking to the more traditional sort of values that they used to hold. And Derry and his newest friends / allies are tasked with tracking down someone who is missing in true Landovel. And that's sort of where the series kicks off. So they are middle fiction fantasy stories. Emily Rodda is a very, very famous children's fantasy author here in Australia. Her books have been around since I was a kid, and I was really surprised. I was really surprised to see that there was a new series coming out, but it was really lovely to be able to read them and to get a sense of the story and what was happening. So this is perfect for anyone in your life who is a middle fiction fantasy reader. They're very easy to read, very easy to get into, and a really enjoyable time. So thank you again to Alan and Unwin for all of those titles. I really appreciated reading them. I do have a couple of other holdover titles that I will hopefully get to in the next couple of weeks. In terms of other books that I picked up, I bought a couple of poetry anthologies for my birthday. One is For Everyone by Jason Reynolds, which is actually not so much an anthology as it is a letter to everyone. And it's about what it's like to chase a dream and to not give up on chasing your dreams and to embrace what that means for you. So it actually starts out as a letter. It's really beautiful, absolutely lovely. So glad that I picked it up. And then the second one that I had are These Are the Words by Nikita Gill. This one is very much a feminist collection for girls and women, but also for everyone, about embracing yourself, embracing your passions, your family, the things that you love and care about, and not being afraid to go after them, and to acknowledge that sometimes there are times where you have to stand up and fight and protest, and sometimes where you do not feel comfortable in your own body, but there are still so many things that make you you and beautiful, and just, this was lovely. So highly recommend both of those. Then I read 3 books in the Bold Brew series, which is one of the series that I'm trying to finish this year. These are all stories centered around a coffee shop that specializes, one, in celebrating the queer community, but also in kink and good coffee. I mean, the good coffee part is lost on me because I don't drink coffee, but you know, that's the central part of the story. So I read Perfect Matcha by Erin, McLellan, Vanilla Steamer by Crystal Lacy, and Order Up by Wendy Qualls, which are books 3, 4, and 5 in the series. So Perfect Matcha is about Theodore and Camden. This is a friends to lovers story. One of the characters is trying to find a partner, I think, to attend a wedding for one of his exes. And in fact, all 3 of them, the ex and the 2 main characters, are all friends. And so one asks the other friend, the one that's not getting married, to play matchmaker and help him find someone to go to this wedding with. But he's also, you know, not the most outgoing of guys, and he feels like he needs some coaching in that area, which ends up involving exploring various kinds of sex toys, and the 2 main characters fall in for one another. It is a very much friends to lovers kind of story, and it was really adorable. I should say all 3 of these books are also under 200 pages long. Vanilla Steamer is by Crystal Lacy. This one is Van and Landon's story. This one explores a lot of power exchange dynamics within a relationship. So Van is a barista, Landon is a doctor or a nurse in the ER, I can't remember which one it is. But the 2 meet in the coffee shop, and they're interested in each other and interested in sort of in exploring the dynamics of their relationship. And so yes, it does talk a lot about power exchange and kink and bondage and all of that sort of thing, which was really cool. These stories all connect, so all of the characters know each other, but they're all, you know, it's that kind of interconnected standalone world. And I do like that they explore different elements of the kink world. And then Order Up by Wendy Qualls is actually the shortest of the 2. This one's actually under 100 pages. And this one is about Blake and Graham. Blake is very much an exhibitionist. He works at the coffee shop, and he has his own kind of like OnlyFans page where he's sort of making some money on the side. And he has been running a series with his best friend, who is Ace, and who plays his dom. They're not actually in a relationship. They don't necessarily have any kind of connection that way, but his friend plays this role. But his friend has had to go away because his mother is unwell. And Blake has been teasing for his fans that, you know, he's going to be doing something for his birthday. And in the end, he ends up recruiting Graham to help him out. And Graham is initially reluctant because he doesn't really want to be on camera, but there's this whole thing about masks and, you know, no one knows his identity. And this one explores exhibitionism and shibari, and also again exploring those dom sub elements as well. So, you know, the stories are really fun and short and very easy to get to, and I like all the connections with the characters. It just makes it fun. Then I reread Paladin's Faith by T. Kingfisher. I had the audio out on Libby. I've been waiting for it for ages, so I just finally listened to it. It's a really long audiobook, but it was really nice going back and, you know, hearing the story, because I read every other story in the Saint of Steel series on audiobook, but I couldn't get a copy of Paladin's Faith before I got my physical copy, so I actually read that. It was nice. It was be able to, you know, take that full circle and to be back with all of those characters, because I love the Saint of Steel series. So I've already talked about this. If you do a search on my YouTube channel, you'll be able to find the review. Then I read Pucking Sweet by Emily Rath, because that released this week as well. This is Poppy, Novi and Morrow's story, which has been teased for the longest time. So the thing you have to know about the Jacksonville Rays series is that while all of the books are written in a particular order, and Emily Rath herself has recommended that you read them in the order that they're released in, all of the stories sort of take place concurrently, so you get to see different aspects of the story taking place in all of the books, which I'm totally fine with. Some people get frustrated about, and some people go, you know, as far as to create those tandem reads, which sounds really amazing, but I would totally get distracted and, you know, lose my place. I'd be too worried about not swapping books in various places, so I'm not so much worried about a tandem read. But I was really excited about this book because I loved Pucking Around. Pucking Wild I enjoyed, but probably not as much as Pucking Around. I think this one is probably sitting just below Pucking Around in my favorite of the series kind of order. So Poppy is the PR manager for the Jacksonville Rays. She's this tiny pocket rocket of a character who just puts everyone in their place in a really lovely way. She's, you know, very confident in herself. And we find out in this story that she comes from a wealthy family, and that not everything is going really well in that world. She was originally engaged to be married. She ended up calling off the wedding the day before, and she finds out that her family have arranged for her younger sister to marry her ex-fiance, which, you know, causes some tension. Her family is truly a piece of work, like utterly a piece of work. Novi and Morrow are defensemen on the team. At the start of the book, it's when the Jacksonville Rays are forming. They're all competing for a first line position. Novi has an attitude to rival Playboy hockey player attitudes. And when he first came to the team, Poppy was given a file on him, and she says it's thick, and basically it came with a post-it note from his previous PR manager that said, "Good luck, he's your problem now." And so she's determined to keep him in line, and he just enjoys antagonizing her. On the other hand, you have Morrow, who has come from the same team where she previously worked. So they know each other, they're friends. And he is absolutely besotted by her and just hands down has been in love with her the entire time he's known her. And so you have a lot of really interesting dynamics. And this one, probably even more than Pucking Around, explores how relationship dynamics change really quickly, because originally when Emily Rath was talking about this book when Pucking Around came out, it was going to be MFMs, which basically means that it was all about Poppy. It was a why choose centered around her. But over time, and as you read the book, you get to see how actually that shifts and how Novi and Morrow actually begin to develop a relationship themselves. So you have MF, MFM, MMF, and MM scenes within the book, and it's really, really interesting how that relationship develops over time, because Novi is a very self-sabotaging individual and Morrow is a very self-sacrificing kind of character. And to see how they all interplay with Poppy is interesting, because she is so busy running around trying to keep everything afloat. There is a really amazing scene in the book where she actually ends up going to the owner of the hockey team and going, "You promised all of these things, you did not deliver on them, and now you're wondering why everything is falling apart." I love it because she's just so confident and she is not afraid to stand up for what she wants. It is very dramatic and angsty, and, you know, everyone needs to sort themselves out, especially Novi. This one does feature an accidental pregnancy in it. However, the pregnancy part is part of the story. The actual birth part of the story is off page. There are a couple of medical emergencies that happen on ice, including an injury involving an ice skate, and then also another one that is a cardiac emergency, so be aware of those going into it. Emily Rath includes all of the content warnings and things like that that you need to know at the start of the book, so I would just check that. But yes, I had a great time. It was nice to get another book in the Jacksonville Rays series. And then the final book that I'm going to talk about is Done It All by Evie Mitchell, which is the third book in the All Access series. I did receive a review copy from Evie as part of her review team, so thank you very much to Evie. I have the ebook, I also have the audiobook. I actually immersive read this with the audio and the ebook, which was a great experience. The audiobook is wonderful. This is Theo and Mai's story, and it is very much a friends to lovers, only one bed, forced proximity story. So Theo is the twin of Lincoln, who was the protagonist in Love Flushed. In the past, he was involved in a car accident that has seen him lose part of one of his legs. So he wears a prosthetic leg. He is the most cinnamon roll golden retriever character that you will ever meet. He is also a little bit lost. He doesn't really know what he wants to do with his life, but he is the biggest champion of his friends. And he started out as a friend of Mai's brother Ren, and then became friends with Mai, and the two are just like inseparable and have been for ages. Theo is bisexual, Mai's demisexual, and I absolutely love the demisexual rep in here, and there's some really great explanations of what it's like to be demisexual and how that impacts relationships with other people. Did I feel seen? Absolutely. Thoroughly loved that rep. So it is a lovely, casually queer kind of story in that way. Theo and Mai are trying to push themselves out of their comfort zones. Mai loves to design clothing. She works in a clothing boutique, and Theo gets it in his head that in order to push her out of her comfort zone, he enters her into this reality TV show competition about, design. And the only problem with that is that she gets in, and then they realize that the fine print says that it's for couples, and she doesn't have a partner. And so Theo offers to be her fake boyfriend and get on the show with her. They know that it's going to come out, but they still do it anyway. And it's really fun because Mai deals with anxiety. So being on the show is incredibly stressful for her. And on the flip side, Theo is forced into situations where he has to be on his feet all day. And so that causes issues for him with his prosthesis and being in pain all the time. So you have those elements that Evie always weaves really well into the story of characters dealing with real life issues that people deal with on a day-to-day basis. Anyway, the whole story was just utterly adorable and fun. I think this might be my favorite book in the All Access series. I'm going to be ordering a physical copy of the book when it comes out. I think it's October the 12th. If not, I'll leave the actual date down below. But it was so much fun. I thoroughly enjoyed the story and seeing how Mai and Theo's relationship evolved over time, and how they went from being friends with feelings for each other, but both of them are afraid to share that they have feelings for one another because they don't want to ruin the friendship, to being in a relationship and then having to deal with the fallout when people find out that maybe they're not actually in a relationship, but they really are. It was fun, and I loved hearing about Mai's clothing designs as well. It sounded really lovely. It definitely wove in culture and symbolism and all of that sort of stuff into the designs that she was making. So highly recommend this one. Great fun, reasonably low angst read, and yeah, we all know I like those. And so that is my wrap up for this week. In the comments, I'd love to know if you've read any of these books or if you're planning on picking any of them up. If you'd like to let me know that you're here but don't want to leave a comment, feel free to leave a heart emoji down below. Otherwise, I hope that wherever you are in the world, you're staying safe and healthy, and I will see you in my next video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye everyone.